I'm Heaney, work with TalkTalk, with the UK's second largest site. We have about 4 million customers, and in Eric's words, we're one of those obsessives. Hopefully you'll have seen probably what the most vigorous critic of the Digital Economy Act, not a whole lot, just a bit that refers to illegal file sharing, and I'll try and explain why. Hopefully I'll persuade you why we have a good case. We're obviously, along with ET, running a judicial review against the Act at the moment, the hearing in March. I think the other thing that we're not very good at is sitting on the fence. So if we think something's wrong, we tend to actually say it. Just a couple of things to get out of the way after sitting on these panels and are pitched by the likes of the VPI as the devil incarnate. Just to kind of get some basic stuff there. Look, we recognise that illegal file sharing, harms the digital economy. Don't disagree with that. We support the intent of the Digital Economy Act to reduce illegal file sharing or online infringement of copyright. We don't encourage, we don't support, we don't condone it, we don't find ways of helping customers to do it or avoid being detected. Indeed, we're willing to help. We have offered to the BPI, but they've never taken it up, sending out education letters to our customers, with the simple provider, one, that the letters are threatening, falsely threatening. The second one is they pay for them. Don't think there's particularly unreasonable requirements, but they've just stayed silent. We're also working with the industry trust to see how we can send out education messages to our customers. So we're very happy to help. However, let's look at the Digital Economy Act itself. As Eric said, it has very far-ranging implications. I'll go through some of those. Our bottom line view is whatever's done to try and tackle online infringement, it must be proportionate and fair. It must make a fair balance between the rights of rights holders or copyright holders, totally legitimate rights to protect their property, against the rights of consumers. And in our view, that basically that balance just hasn't been struck. In summary, it's got lots of rough edges. The main problems are it's going to cost hundreds of millions of pounds. The government actually did ignore most of these costs. Actually, there are huge costs, both intended and unintended consequences. Actually, the thing is, and I'll explain why, it'll do very, very little to stop illegal file sharing. Basically, people who do illegal file sharing will just carry on with impunity. And actually, because of the way its detection system and the way it imposes kind of vicarious liability on subscribers, basically millions of innocent subscribers will basically be hurt and harmed and detrimented. So that's, in summary, the problem. The core problem about the thing, I'll get a little bit technical here, is it's targeted at doing P2P file sharing. What happens is the rights holders or their agency, so the deact net, basically identify the IP address of an upload of somebody who's offering content for sharing. Basically, they've got the IP address, they can't match it to the infringer. So they send it to the ISPs, to us, and we can match an IP address to a connection in the subscriber. The flaw there is the gap. It never gets matched to the actual infringer. So basically, the detection method, even when we're involved and we can do our matching of IP addresses to connection, never actually gets down to tackling the infringer. So if I take my household, I will get a letter according to the Digital Economy Act sent to me saying, illegal file sharing has gone on in your connection. If you don't stop it, we might take you to court, or actually technical measures are introduced. We might disconnect you. But actually, the likelihood that it wasn't me, it could have been my wife, it could have been our nanny, it could have been one of my 5 children, could have been a visitor, could have been a Wi-Fi, one of our neighbours who just hacks into our connection. Yet what it tries to do is impose a vicarious liability on me to police my internet connection. And if I don't do that, then I get all these sort of negative consequences. I will be sent these letters, I'll be put on a database, they call it a copyright infringement list. If that carries on, then I'll be exposed to court proceedings. And if some of the rights holders get their way, and I do know my way fast is a rather more balanced group I find than the BPI. But if some of the copyright holders get their way, there'll be disconnection introduced. So I could get disconnected for something my wife has done. Which I think that's quite a good idea, actually. But anyway, it just doesn't seem to be right in modern society that that's basically you're imposing a liability on somebody who hasn't done that. And it's probably notable, I'm sure, criminal laws will know, under copyright or under 97A or B, or whichever it is, there is no vicarious liability for the subscriber in respect of third-party infringement on that connection. So basically, it's creating this whole new regime, which has a lot of damaging impacts. I'll come on to some of those in a minute. The next problem is it's going to be futile. All it does is tackle peer-to-peer file sharing. That's about a third of all online infringement that goes on today. And even that third of people, if it looks like they might get detected or caught or threatened or punished, they'll just switch to one of the other techniques, sign the lockers, use the net, whatever. It's not, again, to reiterate, it's not that we're trying to promote these other techniques. That's just the reality of the world today, is that people will shift. So, I mean, use an analogy, somebody described it, oh, isn't this a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut? Well, no, it's a sledgehammer that misses the nut, doesn't even crack the problem. So, we think that of the losses that the copyright industry incurs due to online infringement, maybe 200 million, might get 10% back, maybe 20%, 20 million back per year. Stack that up against the costs. To run all these systems costs about £50 million a year. It's going to cost open Wi-Fi networks and libraries and universities about £20 million a year for software on their networks to be compliant. The administration costs of Ofcom about £5 million. They're going to have to set an appeals mechanism so that people who think they've been falsely accused can actually appeal. That's probably going to cost about 30 million. At the end of all this, there's going to be court proceedings. To make it of a significant size, they're probably going to need thousands of proceedings that might cost tens of millions a year. There's going to be churn, there's going to be home Wi-Fi security. It's going to discourage usage of the internet. It's going to upset us. In the internet, there's a kind of a balance between intermediaries and the internet, which basically this comes out in the e-commerce directive as a really conduit status. The idea is that basically distributors are not responsible. Because if you make the distributors responsible for content, you drag them into policing things and censoring what people do, which is a bad thing. So huge costs, hundreds of millions of pounds, tiny benefit, huge harm to individuals, and that's the reason effectively why we think it's a bad idea. I'm sure something can be done.